the Middle East. That's the region in which exists Arabia, where Islam took its rise. Arabia is the land where the Kaaba exists, the symbol of worldwide Muslim unity and the locus or site of the annual pilgrimage, drawing at present anywhere from 2 to 3 million people a year. This is also the place where, after Muhammad's death, the so-called rightly guided caliphate came into existence. You need to supply a missing D in the word guided. I'm sorry. Rightly guided caliphate. And these are the dates. Muhammad died in 632, and from that year up to 661, we have the era of this caliphate. Now, I'll mention the other thing also and then come back to this caliphate. This is also the region where the first interactions of Muslims with Judaic and Christian religious and cultural traditions took place, because the Middle East is home to the two other monotheistic faiths, also Judaism and Christianity. Now, I'd like to spend a minute on the notion of the rightly guided caliphate. And this is a preface to the political, primarily, and religious, secondarily, some would say the other way around, history of the Muslim world at large. So there's no reason to say that this caliphate serves as a necessary prelude or preface to a study of Islam in Asia only. That's not why it's here. But it's a study of this caliphate is a necessary prelude to the study of Islam anywhere in the Islamic world, and anywhere, of course, includes Asia, and that is why I'm presenting it here. These 30 years or so, 632 to 661, there were 4 individuals who succeeded Muhammad, one after the other, of course. Abubakar, and you know their names, I'm sure. Abubakar was the first one, then there was Umar, then Uthman, and then Ali. Abubakar starting 632, and Ali's death took place in the year 661. The rule of these 4 individuals is regarded by the majority of Muslims in the world as the era of the rightly guided caliphate. Now, if you were to judge or evaluate these 30 years by such standards as economic prosperity, social harmony, lack of civil strife, lack of any untoward incidents like assassinations of leaders, then perhaps this era will fall short. That is not why it's called the rightly guided caliphate. There were all sorts of problems. For example, right after Muhammad's death, Abu Bakr had to face the claims of some individuals who said that we are, some people claim to be prophets. Well, that happened in the Prophet's own lifetime also. But number of tribes became apostates. And one way in which they were considered apostates was that they said, well, the tribute called, that's how they called it, Zakat, was a tribute that we paid to the person of Muhammad. Now that he is dead, we no longer have to pay Zakat. So they thought of Zakat as a tribute that was to be paid by a powerful ruler king. And that's the image in which they cast Muhammad, said he's dead, we no longer have to pay zakat now. And the Islamic view is that zakat is the right inhering in the wealth of a person who has to pay zakat, and payment of zakat is not optional. No, it's the right of society, the right of those who are not very well off, the poor. And if you deny zakat, then the government, the state has the right to take zakat from your wealth by force. It's not tax, keep that in mind. Zakat is not tax, but tax is imposed by the government, and its rate can vary, small amount, large amount, depending, and it's meant for certain specific purpose. You want to build a highway, so you impose a tax, and so on. Zakat is an amount that has to be paid, and it has spiritual and religious significance, primarily because, as the name indicates, it purifies yourself, and the wealth that you possess will be impure if you don't pay any zakat on it. It becomes pure for you to use only after zakat has been taken out of it. So from an Islamic standpoint, then, zakat is the right of the poor people, and it will be taken from your wealth, and its payment of it is not optional. So Abubakar then said, we have to fight against these people. And the situation was so precarious at that time. Muhammad had just died. There were differences among Muslims, especially among the immigrants and the residents. And the issue of successorship to Muhammad had just been decided, but that does not mean that all negative feelings that different parties had for each other had completely and magically vanished. That's not the way human beings are. So there was residual anger, resentment. You can imagine that. It was a human society. So some companions suggested to Abu Bakr that we do not take any action against these zakat deniers, the apostates. See, they were called apostates because they refused to pay zakat. You do not do something that is fundamental to Islam, and you step outside Islam. It's that serious. So there were people who just reneged on the commitment they had made to the Prophet. They said this was a personal commitment that we had made to the person of Muhammad. Now that he is dead, we are no longer under any obligation to follow Islam, and especially we don't pay any zakat. So some companions advised caution and said to Abu Bakr, this is not the right time to take action against these apostates. And Abu Bakr said, no, we have to set a precedent. And so he took action against these tribes, and he forced them to pay zakat, and that sent a very strong message that the central government of Medina, in spite of all the uncertainty and precariousness of the situation, was still powerful enough to combat such people or tribes. So this was a major issue in the first 1 or 2 years of Abu Bakr's caliphate. Then the second Caliph Umer was assassinated. He was assassinated by a slave. It was not, the assassin did not represent a large segment of the Muslim population. That was not the case. It was an individual act, and there was an individual grudge behind it. But the result was Umar's assassination. Then the third Caliph, Usman, his era, especially the second half of his era, was a troubled one. The fourth Caliph, Ali, also faced a lot of trouble. And he too, Usman actually was assassinated and Ali was also he was also killed. Now, so if you look at these incidents, you would say, rightly guided caliphate? In what sense, really? One can ask that question. But the reason why Muslims call this era this rightly guided caliphate is that not because of the lack of any such problems, in spite of all these problems, the ship of the state was moving in the right direction. The orientation of a society was right and correct. And the first allegiance of the Muslim rulers was not to a tribe, but to the religion of Islam. To begin with, these individuals were truly representative of the Muslim community.